we should be live. This, I'm just gonna hit record and go. I'm so nervous again. I think it's good to do things that you are nervous about, but painting probably shouldn't be one of those things every time. I'm grabbing Base Builder brush. If you're a member on this channel, that is now available in downloads, along with, I think it's 7 other brushes that I have just put into the members section. You can also find the links to those always in our Discord, that is for members. You can also get feedback to your artwork there. Some people are writing to me on Instagram and asking for feedback. Just remember that if I did that, that would be my entire life. So I can't provide feedback to everybody. Like I'm gonna be completely honest and say that even on the membership, I have no ability to give feedback to everybody who is asking for it. I'm just always picking pieces where I think that highlighting certain composition elements would be most useful to everybody in the community. So I just wanna manage expectations and not set myself up in a situation where I'm just constantly required to basically have a say on everyone's artwork. I do love giving feedback, but the reality is that I'm working so hard to keep this channel alive that if I just focused on giving feedback to everybody, like I would not be able to sustain this entire system. So I hope you guys understand. Hello. I'm not gonna even try to pronounce that name. I've noticed that my English like comprehension skills just go like way downhill when I'm trying to paint at the same time. The Base Builder brush is great because it allows me to just do an entire canvas full of this kind of like very vibrant texture without worrying about having a base texture to start with. And then when I keep color picking this piece, it's all going to be automatically vibrant, like because every color pick has some kind of like interesting element underneath. So I'm gonna go into oily grit brush, and in rendering I am selecting the blend mode and I'm setting this into overlay. Whenever I'm making changes to brushes, I always try to make sure that I do a duplicate of that brush first. Now I want to make sure that this brush is slightly below the 50% line. You can also see it from here. If you check this, like here's the halfway point. This will only work if the value is lower than 50%. So now that I'm making brush strokes with this, they are continuously just getting more and more dark. So I just want to quickly show the canvas size. I have 30 layers available to me, and the resolution is 9000 pixels by 6000 pixels at 600 dpi. So this is going to be a very painterly piece, since obviously I won't be able to use tons of layers with this. I'm sliding the brush along the canvas lightly. That way I can pick up some of those colors underneath and build more texture. I think I could change this into multiply instead. So I'm gonna go into the same blend mode and then select multiply. And multiply logic works so that every brush stroke is just going to add darkness and saturation over each other. So I'm going to make sure that I start with as light color as humanly possible. Hello Selina and Silvinka82. This absolutely does not build up the way that I am thinking that it would build up. I wonder why that is. I guess I'm just gonna do all of this on a new layer and set that into overlay mode. Just make sure that I am below there. I'm just gonna get rid of this entire brush since it's not working the way that I assumed that it would. Yesterday I got this really big painting done. It took me 9 hours to paint it, but 9 hours is relatively quick for a very detailed piece. But this was a tutorial piece that I am building for Gumroad. It's not going to be a normal, here's how to paint this painting kind of piece, because I thought that there aren't those kinds of tutorials for these very detailed technical pieces at all. It's usually something that people can paint in one sitting, and I thought that for people who have already done that and are past that skill level, there's not really anything out there like the kind of thing that I think would be helpful. So I thought that why not I just make that myself, which honestly sounded way easier than it actually is, but that's the reason why I've been literally stuck here painting and planning the same piece for days and days, and now it's done. Yesterday I spent half of the day after the painting was finished literally just looking at that painting when it's done. And I'm so happy with the end result. I'm just so happy with the fact that I was able to kind of stick to the plan that I did beforehand, and all of the painting is done in this sort of like never go back mentality, because I knew that as this is going to be one of those like really detailed pieces, not one of the simple tutorials but more advanced level painting, that there's just so many techniques that I need to cover, and that is going to take up a whole lot of time. And I didn't want time to be spent into me retracing my steps and then having that kind of backfire to me as a video producer, like going into the edit and having to edit the same piece for weeks and weeks and weeks, well, I do now have 18 hours of footage because it's from 2 different camera angles. And they all need to be put into one big Gumroad product. So I do have that to get over, but at least it's all forward momentum. Like, if I want to create a tutorial that is about creating this advanced level architectural piece with tons of details and all of the sort of like realism and concept art techniques in use, covering all of those elements, like for example architecture design and world and story building, that is now that material is there. Now I just need to package it in the video edit in a way that makes sense. Whoa, sorry. Also, Selina and Silvinka, I don't know if you guys have seen, but there's a really cool post on Discord about, I don't remember who it was, who posted this, like their own mini art set. The art set that is pocket-sized, and there were like full paints, and I think it was called like whiskey art set or something. It was so cool. I was really happy about like my pocket-sized art tools, but as soon as I saw that, I was just like, okay, I stand corrected. Like, there's a cooler way to do all of this, and I have just been proven that there is like more that I can do for my art to go art set. By the way, if you are just joining this live stream, you probably missed my beautiful line art for this piece that I already had pre-planned before this live stream. So now I can just show that live art for you. Here it is. I just think that this is so funny. So when you feel like you're discouraged because your painting looks ugly in the beginning, just remember what my line art looks like, and remember, you're fine. You're probably doing better than me in that regard. Selina saw the art set. I should probably like give credit to where credit is due. Whoa, where is it? So Storm Witch is the member who posted this super cool art set on Discord on the general channel. So I'm just feeling out the landscape forms. I'm feeling like some kind of a valley with cliffs on the sides. And letting these different layers of color just build. I'm trying to stick to colors that are below that 50% line so that I can work towards light after this initial sketch is done. There's already a ton of hue variety in here, and I think that's pretty exciting. One element that I want to try here is to have an underpainting that is slightly more saturated than what I normally have. And let that take care of the shadowy areas in this. I'm still using oily grit brush. And I think I'm going to be using that for most of this piece. I might use some of the textured brushes that are in the current downloads, because cliffs take forever to paint. And honestly, I've learned over the past few years that like maybe there are benefits to utilizing texture sometimes. I'm really sorry about the barking. My boyfriend just came home from work, and my producer is absolutely losing her shit. Hello, Lord. Definition of trust the process. Yeah. Well, the way I see that, even if the beginning looks ugly, digital painting is never ever just like failed. It's just not done. So even if this whole thing might look like I am just blobbing in random bits of color all over the place, I am kind of like feeling the mood of the piece constantly and trying to develop that further. So there is a method to the madness. I'm not just like randomly slapping in color. I just want to keep everything on the same layer. And maybe start clearing up the sky a little bit. By the way, if you're just tuning in this palette, like you can steal this palette in this live stream by screenshotting it right now. Or if you're a member, you can download it. It's already in the current membership downloads, along with this brush and high resolution artwork and other brushes. And color palettes as well. Everything from the previous live streams, including the space palette. Producer is multitasking. She has a very busy job. Yes, incredibly. One of her most important tasks, the things that she does, is whenever I'm moving around here, like going to get coffee or just leaving my chair for any reason, like she always comes and presents me with one of her toys and suggests that this is a good time to focus on her playtime. Dog trainer, I remember a dog trainer told me that you should be the one who decides when the dog gets playtime. That hasn't really panned out at all. Thank you. I think in the high resolution artwork, you can't really see all of this texture. Whoa, did I accidentally erase a bit? The new piece is also going to be there. I just have a little bit of like editing, color editing bit to record for the tutorial, and then it will be like done. I did already do the color edits on my own just to practice for the recording so that the color editing can be as easy to understand as possible. With these brushstrokes, I am thinking about the forms of the landscape and trying to kind of paint on the landscape. I don't know if that makes sense. Almost like I'm there on the scene and I am painting a straight line on the ground. And this is just the camera that is seeing that straight line. I adjusted the music volumes a little bit before the live stream because the music is like by nature a little bit more quiet. So let me know if the volume is too loud or too quiet. Hello, loud. Do you just have a basic idea for the painting and then start and see what forms ideas come to mind? Yes. Pretty much yes. This old country color palette, I just was starting with these swatches right here. And then I mixed them together, and then I thought that, like, what if these are like the local colors? What would be the warmer and lighter versions of those? And that's how the entire palette was formed. And because I was inspired by those sort of like broken muddy colors, that kind of gave me the idea that maybe I want to do some kind of landscape painting that has that kind of like vibe. I don't know if it has, like, now I'm really setting myself up for harsh comparisons, but kind of a similar vibe than old landscape paintings have. Those sort of like, even the bright whites and the blues of the sky, even they have this sort of like broken color softness and creaminess to them. That's what I was inspired to do. So when I'm working on a color palette, of course I am thinking about like the first swatch, which is the most important one, is like, what is this swatch over here on the top left corner? That's the light, and that defines all of the other colors. Like, no other color in my palette is ever as important as that first swatch. That's how all the other colors get decided. I love how this brush really allows me to work on these sort of painterly shapes by just easing off the pressure and then controlling where my edges are. The hard edges are where I'm pressing more, and then when I'm pressing more lightly, that's when I break those edges and create those blends and transitions. And the blend with this brush also creates more texture. So that's something that I'm always aware of, like where I want to place that texture. And it's just like a nice, it's hard to describe, but like some brushes just give a certain kind of feel to the painting, that the act of painting and blending colors, to me, it just feels more enjoyable. And especially since I've been working so long for this tutorial that is coming to Gumroad, that I really wanted to paint something that, like, you would see the entire visual impact in just pretty much one sitting. So that's why I felt like this brush would be perfect for this. By the way, I am using this brush also in that bigger project. I really have to be careful with moving my legs because there are so many cords underneath this table. if you have any code management tips, please, please send help. I am I am not doing okay, like with the code management. It's just not going well. That's all I can say. Also, it's nice to work on something light for a while. Because the painting I've been working on, it's very dark fantasy, which I do love doing. And it has Gothic architecture, which is one of my big passions. But when you're in that world and you're working on something so dark for a long time, I think the way that my art style works is that my art style is whatever is the opposite of the previous painting. So if I'm doing tons of like colorful, bright, warm landscapes, then I definitely want to do something like colder, bleaker, maybe even scary. And then when I do that for a while, I want my fluffy bear characters again. One thing that will instantly make me swap art styles is if somebody in the comments says that like, this is the thing that you should do more of, then I'm not even thinking about it. Like, of course I want to do what people want me to, what the kind of content that people want me to produce. But when somebody says stuff like that in comments, then I know that my creativity is instantly like, okay, we are definitely not doing that, because we are not doing what somebody on the internet is telling us to do. Like, that's how my creativity responds to those sort of requests. No offense, and I'm honestly not even going to act like I'm responsible for that. I have no say in this, and I just know that my creativity knows better what kind of processes I will enjoy more. So I'm just trusting that. It is unfortunate that like I can't provide what people are always requesting of me. But I guess I'm never going to be that artist. I'm never going to be that artist that does fan art or their favorite characters, or it's never meant for me, that type of life. Hello, Camel. Um, there are cable ducts, so you can feed the cables into those and never have to trip over them. Yeah, I think maybe I should get something like that. I hope they're not expensive. Or just buy hair clips and clip them together. However, standing on them equals stepping on a Lego brick. What is this music? I can check. Try your wings. Helmut Schneeger. I'm just quickly going to do some stage direction here. Give me a second. Okay, now we are at 38-minute mark, and this is pretty much the time of horror. I'm looking at the painting and I feel like I have nothing here. Oh dear. Sorry, I'm going to do a little bit of panic painting. Just so that I can get a sense of what really is happening here. Maybe this could be like in shadow color, like where there's a cloud shading over these areas. When I did the line sketch, like one of the most interesting ideas I think I had here is that over here the left edge is going to go over the corner, and on the right it's going to go under that corner. So I want to stay true to that design idea. Like, those are really the things that I kind of see that, oh, this would be an interesting setup for me to kind of solve that, how that composition works. And it can really be something that simple. It doesn't have to be more complicated. There's a color here that is almost there, but maybe I can like color big by mixing the things that are here already on the scene. So it's something that works. When you have colors like these on your canvas and you have so much variety as I do on the canvas at the same time, you probably don't need to go into the color palette and find your colors that way. If you have a mix of elements that you want, I have desaturated elements, elements that are closer to the sky color. All of that is already in here. So all I need to do is just like use the elements that are here and try to mix the colors for this scene. It can be very tempting to go and just like add new colors whenever you start painting a new element or a different section of the same element. But that way you end up making way too big leaps with hue and value. Especially in landscape painting, where you're working with these distant, diffused lights and atmospheric perspective. All of those changes are honestly so subtle that you probably won't be able to identify them by just eyeballing them, and all of that stuff usually lives in the palette. And by that, I mean that whatever colors you are working with, you can create small different nuances of brighter, darker, saturated, warmer and cooler tones right then and there on the painting itself. My palettes never kind of give the answers to everything that I want to paint. They are just a starting point. And as such, I think here they have provided me a starting point that is giving me a really good base. For mixing colors that fit every scene in here. I'm color picking some of the sky color and blending it with these grasses in the shadow to give the shadow a little bit more visual interest than just the identity that this is the shadow, but also which areas of the planes of grass are angled towards the sky and would change in hue. And again, like the change in value and hue is incredibly subtle, but your eye gets more sensitive to these sort of subtle changes far off in the distance, even in a painting. And when there are huge changes such as these, like your eye will be able to tell that like that doesn't quite look right. It looks like I'm completely covering this area over here, but I am pressing so lightly that the brush is picking up the color underneath there. So all of that is having an effect. And that way I can have these distant colors and yet still have that kind of like cool look to them. I think it's just way too saturated still. So I'm painting over the most saturated areas. Just because the saturation is bringing these elements so much forward that I think it's flattening the illusion of space. I think these would be like shadows of those clouds above. I just remembered that we didn't have the 200,000 subscribers live stream yet. Well, am I losing subscribers? Where are we on subscribers? Are we safely above 200,000 yet? If we are safely above, then maybe we can do that. But I don't want to do like 200,000 subscriber live stream and then immediately fall below that again, because that happened to me on Instagram so many times. I was just basically bouncing around that threshold for pretty much a year. Have fun, Silvinka. I wish that I could start running again. In the last marathon, I think I injured my Achilles tendon, and I've been kind of not running ever since then, and just focusing on core strength and home workouts. But the weather has been so nice here. Like it's incredibly hot fall that is starting here. $201,000 subscribers. That's a lot. I think for 200,000 subscribers live stream, like some kind of super long live stream could be a good idea. Because I've been wanting to do that for ages. And it is such a dumb idea that maybe this could be a good excuse. Because nobody needs to see me for a 10-hour live stream ever for any reason. But maybe if I tell people that this is the 200,000 subscriber live stream, then I could like somehow justify that people would understand, like, okay, he hasn't completely lost his marbles. Like, maybe there's a point to all of this. But for a live stream that long, probably I should plan it somehow with a bit more structure to it. Just out of like technical reasons. If you think about, for example, iPad, and I can power this with a cord. That's not a problem. But I'm pretty sure that if I just live stream Paint in Procreate for 8 hours, it's going to overheat and shut down. So I should probably have some kind of break, switch to pencil or traditional media, or maybe do some 3D modeling in between. And let the iPad cool down a bit. Switching back to oily grid, and then just making sure that that texture doesn't ruin the look of the painting. painting marathon. At least I can do a painting marathon even if I can't do a running marathon right now. I've been so lucky that I've been able to do 2 marathons. Like, even if I have my Achilles tendon issues now, I'm still incredibly grateful that I've been able to participate in those events this year, because I've just wanted to do that for such a long time. I would do the entire marathon training block and always have an injury at the last possible second, over and over again. And finally this year, like, I was able to just do it. So it was incredible. And I know that I got like really, really lucky. Trying to find subtle ways to add variety to these colors and still trying to keep them the same. Different but the same. think these could be a little bit more blue to give the entire scene slightly more mood. But blue is relative, so in this case, when I say blue, I mean mint gray green. In my last video, I said that I go live whenever I have that small slot of time when I'm able to do something like this, and I think today was just a perfect example of that. That I had a few hours to do this live stream, and then I just went live without giving it more thought. I thought that I like this color palette. I can see myself doing a painting with this color palette. I'm just going to do it. What's the worst thing that can happen? Like, maybe I do a bad painting. The color changes that I make, they are literally so small that I can accidentally make a too big color change like I just did. And now when I'm painting that color in, I immediately realized that that change was too big, so I blended it with the colors here. I think it's a good idea to get into the habit of using the color picker just as much as you are using the brush itself. So if you haven't done so yet, please make sure that your color picking method is by touching the screen with your finger and set the delay to 0.12 seconds or even lower if that works for you. You really want to make the act of color picking just as common in your process as making brush strokes. pretty much just like following the entire slope here, trying to give it more character by varying the color. The closer I am to the camera, the more hue variety I can put in. Those background slopes, I think they could use a bit more work as well. So I'm just going to create a new layer for them. Color pick one of those shadow greens. Let's say this, for example. I think that's good enough. Making sure I'm on the right layer here. In a live stream, you can never be too sure, obviously. That's why it's so much easier to just paint everything with the same layer here. I don't want to burden any one of you just looking at me fumble with the layer orders. I'm creating a gradient here at the edge, but just like slapping in one big brush strokes, Gaussian blurring it. Making sure its opacity is strong enough, and then adding a black mask on it, and then painting it in where I actually need it. Selena is asking, what is your favorite brush for painting where brushstrokes and brushstroke grouping are the focus? I think that's a good question. Maybe something that has like a hard edge. I think Bear Brush, Blueberry, those are pretty good for that. Also, in the oil painting process, perfect consistency is also a really good, probably the best one, perfect consistency. I think perfect consistency is really descriptive, but when I was doing the new tutorial, I regret that name so much. I hate saying perfect consistency over and over. It's like I'm congratulating myself for making the brush, which sounds like really cringy. I hate it. But it is what it is. But perfect consistency just means that because the oil painting brush set has so many textured and gritty brushes that bring a lot of character with those textures, that perfect consistency is just that like oil paint when you get the mix into perfect consistency, when it's just smooth and easy to paint details and you can define sharp edges. That's what I meant by perfect consistency. I didn't mean like I created a perfect brush, but it sounds like that now that I have been saying the name of that brush a bazillion times during the recording process of that new tutorial, which is just like, eesh. Regretting some of my choices. I don't like either of these colors, so I'm just mixing one that I can use for these distant trees. I think it's still not dark enough. I like the way that light is not really touching that much of these cliffs. It's just a presence in the scene. I'm going to grab the sky color and then just lightly brush it over these distant cliffs in hue blend mode, and then add a subtle Gaussian blur, and then just reduce the opacity to let those distant colors just fade away. It's just tying those elements together a bit more. Also, to anybody who was here listening to that previous question, like, you can just use the default round brush that is already free in every single painting application. That is the perfect brush for practicing brushstroke grouping, because it's so simple. And I think there's also a benefit to the default round brush for not having any texture or any character in it, that it kind of forces you, like if you're practicing brushstroke grouping, using the default round brush kind of forces you to find the character through your own brushstrokes. And as such, I think it's a perfect brush for practicing that skill. But what in the basic Procreate pack would be close to the one you use currently? Eesh. I haven't used the basic ones for quite a long time. Like, if any of the members can like answer that question on my behalf, I would be very grateful. If you are using the basic process, I think the basic process are great. You don't need to buy any new process to learn painting. I'm sure there are. It's a gritty, roundish brush with bleed set to the brush settings. If that helps. Not in my previous video, but in the one before that, I think I also showed the exact settings on how to create a brush like this. So Neil, you could just see that video and just recreate that brush with the texture that you like, and that's it. that you can already get for free. Also, that video is available to everybody as well. Brushes are just tools like pencils are. So if you want to learn how to draw, the kind of pencil you're using doesn't really make a difference. If you want to learn how to paint, the kind of brush you are using really doesn't make that much of a difference either. If you're having trouble with any specific aspect of painting, I think there I can be of much more of service and help you learn those painting skills, because no brush will fix those issues for you. It's just about doing the right exercises and doing studies that are progressing towards the goal that you have for your art. And I think there I can be much more helpful. I know that this was all on the wrong layer, so I'm just gonna fix this before things get more out of hand. Maybe we could also add a focal point element in the foreground. Some kind of an interesting plant. Nothing big, just something curly. The reason why I use pretty much one brush for the entire painting always is because I don't want to focus too much on the process. I want to focus on the painting itself. So I don't recommend just having this active, massive set of brushes that you are browsing through with every single painting. That seems really cumbersome, and it really takes you out of the design process. So even if you're just using the default round brush that will really help you focus on the painting itself and what the painting needs. It's unlikely that using a ton of brushes is going to make the painting any better. Probably not. And using just one brush keeps things really consistent, and it just makes everything faster, and you can focus on the things that actually matter. Or just do what is suggested in the chat, Tamar in the painting section. I haven't used that one, but I will take your word for it. Here I'm trying to create a brushstroke group that adds these sort of like curving lines to this plant to give it an identity of its own. And this is what I mean by brushstroke grouping. You invent a way to paint an area and then you stick with that idea. And that can be a powerful composition tool as well. And this is also super efficient way to finding your own style, as this forces you to find ways of painting that come naturally to you and the way that your hand works. I'm pretty happy with that layer, so I'm duplicating it, giving it more oomph, and then duplicating it once more and turning it into additive blend mode. Whoa, that's a lot. Taking down the saturation a bit because I think it's kind of fighting against the style of this painting. Setting it as a clipping mask, adding a layer mask to it, and then switching the brush color to white, and then painting the tips into view. And still, I'm using that same way of brushing in these elements so that I don't suddenly change the way that I am painting this one element. The brushstroke rhythm is consistently the same for the entire element and all different parts of it. I like that it's slightly overlapping the mountains as well. With these sort of foreground focal points, it can be very tempting to confine elements into small areas. Like for example, here, I'm just gonna show, like there is this area that could be very tempting composition-wise to like squish that plant in there. But now that it's also overlapping this a bit more, then it's actually unifying elements more than anything. So I'm gonna select all of those layers and just increase that effect a little bit more. And by using this warp tool and just giving it a slight nudge, I'm also giving it more movement, because like now every single brush stroke was transformed the same way as part of that movement. These base layers, I'm gonna give them a small blur and reduce the opacity. Just so that the brushstrokes that are in the foreground in that plant element, they are a bit more crisp and more sharp, and that brings them forward in the scene. I'm kind of worried about the upcoming Procreate update. People have been inviting me to the beta, but as soon as I saw that like you need to back up all of your previous files before you open this, because it's going to overwrite over your previous save of Procreate, like that makes me really worried for my files. So I haven't done that yet. Here the brushstroke group is just more horizontal lines for this stone boulder, and it's moving into more chaotic lines towards the bottom, as I wanted to kind of like seamlessly sink in to the wild elements of the nature. This is not something that is supposed to gather a lot of attention, so I want the chaos to be kind of blending together, and the brushstroke groups are also blending together, because as you are changing from one brushstroke group to another, you are creating a line in that area. So one way to blend, instead of using colors or values or blending tools, is to merge your brushstroke groups seamlessly together instead of abruptly changing from one to another. That is the same as using a soft edge for those shapes. But you can do it in your own, like, basically like painting style. And blend in a way that doesn't compromise the strength of your own individual style of creating art. It's been almost a year since they wanted to release the update. Yeah, I wonder if having Procreate Dreams is kind of clogging up their production for Procreate itself. Since obviously Procreate Dreams needs a lot of work for usability, and it just seemed like there were many features that they had planned but didn't have time to make them for the launch. So for the future, I think they probably are thinking, this is just my speculation without any basis in facts, that probably if people don't move into using Procreate Dreams more, then at some point they have to kind of cut their losses and focus on Procreate. But now, while Dreams is still relatively new, they need to focus on that and push that to be a viable option for creating animations. And whatever coder workforce they have after that, maybe those people are the ones that are working actively on Procreate stuff. Personally, I'm not an animator, so for me, Procreate updates are more important. But also, what updates do I even need? I think managing brushes, like those sort of and brush search, that's helpful. But I don't really need anything. If you can make the system run more efficiently and free up RAM for more layers, I think that's all well and good. But that concludes my wish list. And maybe if you can finally add the damn color selection, then I can start doing all of my color edits for my paintings in Procreate. But I don't think that's a big wish list. And obviously the efficiency is something that they are constantly probably working on in every single update. But as far as features go, give me proper color selection. And then don't mess it with it. Like don't be Photoshop and bloat the software with all kinds of features and buttons just so that you can keep advertising and talking about those features in patch notes. Like that to me is not good product management. I would rather them at some point just realize that Procreate is already working the way that it should, and it just needs to be like maintained by making it compatible with new iPads and making sure that all of the new hardware resources are in use in the application. Like, if you wanna keep working on something, make a new application. Do Procreate 3D. I would buy that. I would use that. But what I don't want is them to like keep adding filters and adjustments and different tools and making the menus more and more complicated and harder for new users to get used to. Like that to me is something that I would not want to happen. I also think that many of the features that people in the forums are like just screaming about, that they need those things to be added into Procreate, I think a lot of those things are just nonsense. Like a gradient tool. Why do you need a gradient tool? How is using a gradient tool ever faster or more efficient than doing a Gaussian blur between two colors? Just look at the gradient tool that is currently in Photoshop. Is that easier or faster to use than a Gaussian blur? Does it have more control than a Gaussian blur between two different brushstrokes or 5 different brushstrokes? No, it doesn't. Overall, I think if you start with the idea that we are gonna go to the community and ask what they want in this software, like you are gonna have a lot of people asking for things that they think that they need. Also, if you go to the Procreate forums and look at these feature requests, it's very clear that a lot of people, like being the loudest speakers in the community, like they don't understand the fundamental nature of Procreate, that it's an art program, and a lot of the features that people are asking are for a design program. Procreate isn't like a photo editing tool or vector program, nor do I think that it should be. Like if they want to do those things, I think they should be separate products. And before you get mad, I have absolutely zero say in what they do. Like they will do whatever they want to do. since it's also been a year and they gave this warning that this is going to ride over the old version of Procreate, I wonder if there are some issues that there might be a danger of people losing their data. And as a company, that would obviously be the worst case scenario for them. It would be such bad PR from the entire art community, and they could just lose the trust of customers. So could it be that they have noticed bugs like that and they feel like these need to be 100% ironed out before the product is released? Because I used plenty of beta versions of Procreate when they have given me access to those. And it's pretty common that in a beta version, it's not finished. They're actively working on those versions. So there has been like plenty of glitches. Sometimes it just automatically closes itself, or some tools are just not working. That is very common for beta versions. But if there is a bug that, for example, in the transfer process could lose user data, then I think that would probably be a reason to postpone the entire release, even if the PR team has been talking about it. Also, if that's the real reason why it's taking so long, by all means, work on it as long as you need to. I'm in no hurry to switch versions. Just like take your time. Like I'm not saying that this is fine in an ironic way. I truly mean that this is just fine. At the moment, to me, this is still the best painting program that there is. Easily. Like really easily. And the reason is the simplicity. Like that's why I feel so passionate about the future updates, that I don't think Procreate needs a lot of stuff. I don't think Procreate needs to be Clip Studio Paint. Because the reasons why people use Clip Studio Paint are different than why people would use something like Procreate. Hello, Melissa. How is life? I've been recently constantly confused by the way that people in the UK greet by saying, "Are you okay?" Especially in written form. That just like breaks my brain. Like, what am I supposed to say to that? Like, hello? Is that the appropriate response? Because as a Finnish person, like my immediate reaction is like, I need to explain what is happening in my life. that is not what they are looking for at all. I feel so much more comfortable working on the right side than the left side, and it definitely shows. By having all this like hue variety just by making a mess in the beginning, it's making this a lot easier and honestly more enjoyable type of a painting experience. It'll be a colder and cooler variation of this color, just to give another slope here in the distance, and then move on to this foreground slope. The cool thing about choices like these is that like they don't really matter that much. So it might seem like they are super important in the moment, but then when you zoom out, who actually even notices that? Probably not a lot of people. And whenever you get like hysterical about these sort of things, just remember that people don't care about my art that much. So if I feel like one way of painting this section is going to be more fun than another, then it's fine to just listen to that incentive. If nobody has ordered this painting or if nobody is paying for it, it can be something that I do just for myself. It's so nice to work on a painting where I can just feel my way through the different shapes without constantly worrying about the just every single detail as much, because I've been so preoccupied with the tutorial I've been working on. Hello, Crucix Art and Seiyu. How has your week been so far? Has any creative ideas, like, have they entered your head or consciousness? Are there any kind of ideas that are wanting to be made through you at this current moment in time? Also, do you guys have your own grab and go art set? I've been recently upgrading mine after I made that video. And honestly, I've been using it more since then. Because I made some changes that make my pocket art tools even smaller. And with tiny art tools, I feel like they are always easier to grab. For example, yesterday when I was going to see my other boyfriend for lunch, just in the tram I was able to sketch ideas with my mini art tools. Even if the tram is kind of rattling around as it moves. That with small tools, it's really like easy to do something quickly, because the bigger piece of paper or canvas you have, basically the more time commitment you need to do anything with those tools. And then when you just have like a tiny piece of paper and a pen, like maybe even a permanent pen, it can be very quick and easy to make some progress, even with just a tiny little bit of time. Are you on the Procreate beta? I just said that, like, I have access to the beta, but I haven't used it because they said that it will write over your current version of Procreate. So that sounds scary. I need to do proper backups first. I guess as a YouTuber, I should be like chasing trends, like what's happening with the latest Procreate news and so on. But when I do that stuff, I always feel like I am doing like disposable content. When I'm doing videos on painting and composition techniques and how to get better as an artist, I feel like those videos never get searched as much. But when I'm working on those videos, I feel like I am actually doing some good. I'm providing some kind of service that I think people will benefit from. So I just feel more inclined to make videos like that. How full is your Procreate gallery? Do you have many projects which are pending while you work on other art? At this point, unfortunately, I have to say that I probably have over a dozen paintings that I haven't yet finished. And I do like feel bad about that. I think it's not a good practice to leave paintings unfinished, because usually, especially when you are trying to grow your art skills, that useful stuff that happens to your art usually happens like near the end of the painting process. So just skipping into new ideas, I really don't recommend that kind of behavior. And I should lead by example by finishing those paintings. But sometimes with like trying to make ends meet and keep this channel alive, like sometimes I'm just too busy to just like focus on the art aspect of it, and I do need to think about like, can I use this painting in a video? If not, then I literally need to make a painting that I can use in a video. Otherwise, I have no material to work on. I like the way that atmospheric perspective has kind of like entered the chat on its own gradually without me having to do actual fog layers yet at all. Like if I do them in the end, and I might, it's just going to be like one more effect that pushes what is already in the piece and not something that is creating that entire mood on its own. I thought that probably the best way for me to back up everything on my Procreate would be to export every single painting that I have as a PSD file. Because if it's a PSD file, then I will be able to see a thumbnail in the file library. But if it's a Procreate file, then all of them will be just like blank thumbnails, and that just seems not as easy to browse through. I want the warm edge of these foreground trees to be have more impact over here. I think that just punches up those colors a bit more. I might make them even more warm, just to get into that old painting look. I like these sort of like fluffy layers of a bit taller grass that is closer to the camera. It's just about finding that right tweak to the same color. What I like about old paintings is that they weren't afraid to paint in like dead plants and these sort of like not so pretty and saturated elements of the scenery. I think if you look at landscape painting these days, I think it's kind of a lost art. Personally, I just like the contrast of seeing the different phases of nature. Even this time of the year, when I'm out walking with my dog, I really like watching how the landscape kind of like ages through this phase of late summer. I'm quickly reading that chat to catch up what's going on there. So far, everything's working for me. I made a whole library for your brushes. Okay. I feel flattered and I feel apologetic that there are so many brushes that I have already made. There's something different of how the brushes feel in a good way. I can't tell what it is. I know they said they worked on the brush engine. Interesting. Now that I'm looking at the foreground tree, I think there's plenty of like editing room to push that effect even further. Sorry. I think I can mute the mic for a second. Sorry, maybe it just had all of the feelings all at once, and that results in mandatory barking. It's just how she operates. I can't I can't help it. Oh my god, sorry. Like, even I get spooked. Okay. So Andrew is asking, do you do any traditional painting? Sometimes. She just said she needs to be in the painting. I think this one probably is not a good fit for her. I don't know about friendly reminder, but definitely a reminder. I think she could work on the friendly part a little bit. I only do literally everything for her. clouds that are really far away, those I can see from the side, and then we can create actual edges for these clouds, but otherwise they are kind of curving above us. To me, in paintings that have skies that I like the effect of feeling like the painter has captured the perspective of the sky, because clouds have their own anatomy as well. It's not just random white blobs in the sky. And when that starts working in a painting, I think that's a really satisfying moment for me. Okay, can I do a quick fog layer? I think I have worked so hard on creating the atmosphere just based on this palette. I think I deserve just a few fog layers at the end of this. Just because I really, really want to. What is eyedropper? Eyedropper is the action that I'm doing currently, like this one, where I'm color picking colors from the painting and using those to paint. If you saw the palette in the beginning of this live stream, I barely used that at all in the rest of the process, because when the painting starts having enough information in it, like it kind of informs you what colors it needs. For Vivi, the most dramatic thing that can like possibly happen in the house that makes her bark more than anything is if somebody opens the balcony door or looks like they are about to open the balcony door. She doesn't want to go to the balcony, she doesn't care about the balcony, but opening the balcony door to her is like, oh my god, what is happening? This is insanity. That door is opening. I need to be here for this event. My nose needs to be the first thing that goes through that door. This is what the entire day has been building up towards. The door is opening. This is it, guys. That's basically her. I like the cold light in the foreground shadows. I think that to me is usually really difficult to paint, but here I'm really happy with the end result. I know that I keep going on about this one thing, but recently I saw one Instagram reel about these sort of like most useful tips for new artists, and one of them, like, it was so upsetting to me that I know that I don't feel this way, but I'm so upset about it that I can't stop thinking about it. One of these so-called tips in this video that this person was saying that you should always hate your latest piece of art. And I just think that like that is so harmful. I mean, people already have enough trouble being motivated and liking their art and like feeling the reason like why keep going at all. It doesn't help if some somewhat popular artist on Instagram is telling people to actively dislike their own art. Like, that's just so bad. And also not helpful. It's not gonna make you any better as an artist. I will promise you that. And as anybody who has like tried to learn art, you know that it's pretty damn hard to like your own art as is. So it's just not something that I agree with. when I finished that Gothic painting yesterday, that to me was just like probably the most fun that I've had painting in a really long time. I always say that, like, yeah, you should enjoy the process and so on, but it's just okay sometimes if you really like your painting to just like your painting and just put it somewhere, look at it, and enjoy it. And in that dark fantasy tutorial, I just went through such journey in discovering the world and the story of that world that once it all came together and I understand reason for every design choice and seeing just like all the pieces finally make sense, that to me was so satisfying. I think that looks like a painting. I'm pretty happy with that. I think some of these bushes in the foreground, I think they could use a little bit more oomph. Hello Tal, welcome to the Angry Mob. I hope you go and grab the current downloads because this brush is there, along with the other brushes that I've been making recently from the oil painting set. And we hope to see you on the Discord. I didn't put a Discord link in the recent community post, but there are surely Discord links, invite links in the previous ones. I'm gonna add it to the recent one as well. I always should add it. And as I was saying in the beginning of this live stream, if you want me to give feedback to your work, taking part in the current art assignments that are happening on the membership, that's the best way to do it. I can't give feedback to everybody who is posting their work there. And remember, if you're posting your work on Discord, use the palette emoji in your post so that we know that you are open to feedback. Everybody is super kind there, so you don't have to worry. Just adding a little bit of like visual noise here. Does it have that old painting look, do you think? Also, Tal, like this current palette, you can also download it there in the downloads. So Tal already knows, like, you're already bare level, so you know how stuff works. We are also doing sketch club sessions, which have been focused on sketching, so they are not live streams like this one. I give different sketching prompts, and you can do just like 5 or 15 minutes of those prompts. You don't have to do the entire live stream session, but the sketch club sessions are specifically meant to kind of like kickstart your sketching habit and to work as like warm-up exercises before doing any art in the day. If you feel stuck and you don't know what you should be doing, do one of the sketch club sessions or 5 minutes of one of the sketch club sessions, and then switch into whatever art you are doing on your own. And that way you get all of this like really fun way to kind of like get your muscle memory warmed up to the act of painting. And it's just an easy way to fight that empty canvas paralysis thing that I'm sure all of us go through at some point. I think, guys, that's the painting. Cruisix Art is saying, I have a trouble finding a pencil brush that feels natural to me on Procreate. So yesterday I made my own. Is it okay to drop it on Discord? Yes, absolutely. Do it. You don't need my permission for that. Do it on general. I think that makes most sense. Okay, that's the painting. Thank you for joining this live stream session. It was so fun to just paint something in just 3 hours. This to me is quick. This is really quick. And honestly, I don't feel like I need to fix this up that much. I think here I have some brush strokes that look a little bit too close to each other. So I'm just going to like order the rhythm to be a little bit more chaotic there. But otherwise, it's a scene, and I think it, like, at least to me, it gets that like old painting vibe. At least to me, it works that way. Sigma is saying, hey Nico, is there any way you could share the playlist from this live? It's very relaxing. This is based on a very random description. I don't know if I probably should not say this because Epidemic Sound allows for natural language search these days. No, I shouldn't say. This is horrible. This is the most cringe thing. But I have learned how the natural language search works. I'm so going to regret saying this. So in Epidemic Music Sound Library, I have written inserts bar for beautiful piano landscapes, electronic discovery. That's the soundtrack that we are listening to now. So based on this search, it's giving a list of songs, and I'm just like playing those songs in order. Okay, that was mortifying. I'm gonna go now. Bye.